5 o'clock on the nose here. Christian, will you please take roll call?
Hey, Mindy Byer. Matt Padu.
Here.
Ivory Hood. Manveer Sandhu. Will Wade.
Here.
Pam Conklin. Here. You have a quorum of 3.
Thank you. Item number 2, we'll convene an open session. I'm not going to read, the next item is public comment. I'm not going to read what I read before every one. The only public comment in the special meeting that's allowed are public comments on the item that's agendized.
Just one?
And we have one. Mark Nowak.
I was told at a CPA conference on school finance a couple of years ago that the median tenure of a superintendent in California is 30 months. They have 2 goals in that time, to increase ADA and increase the ending fund balance. At 30 months, they're either fired, they retire, or they move on to a larger district. All of those outcomes are undesirable for us. I've been beating the drum about transformative change in the last few months. I'd like to offer you 4 search criteria that would, for your consideration to achieve this goal. Number 1, last month you approved a dog to deter students from, shenanigans at the schools. We have a drug problem. We have a cell phone problem. We have a morale problem in secondary. At the elementary level, we have problems with rogue students that are disrupting teaching and destroying classrooms. A large number of students at Vannon are not standing for the flag anymore. We need a candidate that's a real problem solver, someone who will have immediate credibility and can lead. Teachers and students need structure back in the schools. For this to happen, teachers need to know that they will be supported with every possible means. The second, you need a candidate with a minimum of 15 years teaching experience. I've known principals that spent 3, 5, and 8 years in the classroom before becoming an administrator. These are not serious educators. Were they really committed to teaching students? One only went through a probationary evaluationary cycle and 1 more additional evaluation. And this is a person we entrust to evaluate teachers. Probably never even experienced a curriculum change. They don't even know what it's like to have truly difficult students. The third, it would be desirable to find a candidate who has experience or desires to work on passing the bond. And fourth, it would be desirable to find a candidate who's experienced in transitioning a 6th grade to middle school. And that is it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Moving on to number 4, selection of search firm to conduct new superintendent search, and this is an action item. Introductory comments from me. This is item 4 on the agenda, presentation by search firm to potentially conduct new superintendent search. On February 7th, 2024, Superintendent Pam Conklin announced her intention to retire at the end of the current 23-24 school year. Soon thereafter, the board's direction, search firms were contacted and invited to join us today to present their qualifications and to describe the services their firms provide in connection with superintendent search process. We are pleased that 3 search firms and their representative have accepted our invitations. We have asked each firm to provide an overview and to answer questions from the board members. Each presentation will last no more than 15 minutes. We will allow the board no more than 5 minutes for total questions. After each firm presents and answers questions from the board, I will kindly request that they excuse themselves from the meeting so that the board may consider their presentations and perhaps select one of the firms. After the board takes actions to select one of the search firms, we will invite the firm's representative to return for discussion with the board about the next steps and possible questions. Tomorrow, the district legal counsel will contact the other firms to inform them of the board's decision and to thank them for their participation. The order of presentations will be based on alphabetical order. We will first hear from representative of Hazard, Young, Atiyeh and Associates. We have asked the Leadership Associates and McPherson and Jacobson representatives to wait in another room while the first organization presents. The same courtesy will be extended to the other organizations. Our legal counsel, John Pearl, is joining us remotely.
Should we begin?
You're gonna run the clock. 15 minutes, please. That's fine, whatever you like. Yeah, because they have slides.
Thank you.
I guess, yeah, go ahead.
Should we begin?
Yeah, Mr. Badu, this is John Pearl. Our guests are wondering whether they should start because we can't hear what's being said in the boardroom. Let's wait, Ms. Henderson. We'll wait until we're told to start speaking. Thank you.
Okay, moving forward. John, can you hear okay?
Now we can hear you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Number 2, Hazard, Young, Atiyeh Associates presentation, if you'd like to come forward. They're with us on Zoom. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Are you able to see our slides and our little
We-
pictures?
Yes, ma'am, we are, and I want to welcome, and we are pleased to have you join us. Is there anything we can do to assist you in advance of your presentation?
I think we're ready.
Okay, please proceed, and by introducing yourself.
Okay, my name is Alicia Henderson, and Valerie Pitts and I are your search team, and we are so pleased to present our proposal to you this evening. I'm going to go ahead and present some slides and do our very best to answer any questions you have, and importantly, to provide information about how we are distinctive, and we look forward to providing the very best search for your next superintendent. So we did send a proposal, which I believe you have a copy of, which details quite a bit of information about the firm. HYA is a very long-standing success, a record of success in superintendent searches. And I won't go through all the details other than to share very importantly that we have a national reach, but we always have a local focus, and we have a very strong California team, and we have a lot of experience in California, and in particular, Valerie and I really know Northern California. So I'm going to move on to our next slide, which is for each of us to introduce ourselves to you. So again, my name is Alicia Henderson. I was born and raised in Northern California, and most of my career in education has been in Northern California, including a superintendency in Sonoma County. So my background, I started as a speech pathologist and worked in special education for many years, and then got into administration as an elementary and then middle school principal, and then a director, an assistant superintendent, and then 2 superintendencies. So now I am a retired superintendent, and I teach at San Jose State University in the College of Education. And I'm very pleased to also be involved with superintendent searches with HYA, which is a really wonderful company. So now I'm going to let Dr. Pitts introduce herself.
Thank you. I could just say ditto. Alicia and I have very similar backgrounds. It's a pleasure to be here this evening with you. Thanks for having us. I was also born, raised, and lived in Northern California and have worked primarily in fact, only in Northern California school districts. If you count Monterey North, if you count Monterey as North, Monterey, Santa Cruz, Santa Clara, San Benito, Solano. I worked in Solano after I stepped out of the classroom for about 3 years in Fairfield, and Sonoma and Marin. I'm very familiar with the area, Fairfield and Travis. My mother-in-law still lives in Fairfield. She is 99 and a half years old. My father-in-law was based at Travis and retired from there. And so I am familiar with the area and spent some time working there as well after I left teaching as a curriculum specialist. And I've served in administrative capacities, elementary, middle, and high school principal, director of regional programs, special education, SELPA, assistant superintendent, and superintendent as well. I recently retired out of superintendency from Marin County. And again, I'm just really pleased to be here tonight and to tell you about our process, which I get to do. So we just want to take a few minutes. You're going to hear quite a bit about this process because all of the firms do look fairly similar with this process, although Alicia will talk to you a little bit about the distinguishing differences with HYA. And I will say that while we are a national firm, as Alicia said, we are based here in California, and our focus is California. And the majority of the searches that I've completed have been in California and in Northern California, although I have done a couple in Southern California as well. Each of these 1 through 4 parts of the process, from engage, recruit, select, and transition, we give our all to. So while the recruit, you will see the recruit phase usually lasts about 6 to 8 weeks. We are heavily, heavily involved in each of these processes, giving you a lot of time up front to understand your needs as a school district, understand the needs of your community, the needs of your students and your families. During that engage process, we will meet with you, we will interview each of you as trustees, and we will develop a plan with you based on how you want us to reach out to your community to receive input from your community, your staff, your parents, community members, other leaders in the area that you may want to give an opportunity to have input. We will develop a plan with you, and then we will execute that plan. Excuse me. I'm going to have to take a sip of water because I've got the cough that everybody has. We will design the engage phase independently with you, so it doesn't come like a cookie cutter with us. We will say to you, do you want us to do focus groups? Do you want them to be online? Do you want some of them to be in person? Do you want us to do a survey? Should we go to schools and talk to staff? So we'll give you some suggestions, but we want to hear from you as to what you think will work best in your community and help those in your community feel like they were part of the process and were able to give their input towards the selection of their next leader. After we do the engage part of the process, we develop what's called a leadership profile. That helps us recruit, and it helps those who are interested in applying for the superintendency in Travis focus on what your needs are and whether or not they see themselves as a match. Although we spend a lot of time talking to people about the leadership profile, specifically reaching out. We don't just wait for people to apply. We try to go out and find a candidate that will best match your needs based on what we've heard during the engage process. We actually begin recruitment the minute that you contract with HYA to do the superintendent search, in that the job goes up immediately on our job board. HYA's job board has become a national go-to place for folks who are seeking superintendencies. So in California, there's a couple of places that people look to see what's open. AXA, EdCal being one of those. But there's also another place that superintendent candidates can look, and that's on the HYA website, because we advertise not only the openings for which we are doing the search, but we advertise all of the openings that we are aware of across the country. We begin that upon contracting with you. So these phases get our 100% focus. This is what we are doing. We are working for you, with your community, to make sure that you get the very best superintendent possible. So during the recruitment, one of the standout parts of the process that we believe distinguish us as a firm as well is we actually will interview. We screen interview, and this isn't 5 minutes on the phone. We spend 5, 10, 15, 20, sometimes up to a half an hour on the phone recruiting people. Once they've applied, we then screen interview. We will develop questions for candidates based on that leadership profile, based on what the needs of Travis are, and we will interview 30 to 45 minutes each candidate. So we've actually seen the candidates, we've experienced them in the faux interview process before we present them to you for your consideration in terms of whether or not you would like to select them for an interview. We call that bringing you a slate. The last search that Alicia and I did, we had a really great, deep, broad slate. We had 34 applicants to the position. Now, not all of those are credible, but I would say that most of them, a high percentage, 80% or above, are superintendents or are going to be good superintendents. They don't all make it to the top tier slate, those candidates that we will present to you for your consideration for an interview. You get to see and look at all of the candidates, by the way. We don't hold any back from you. We will share those with you. Alicia will talk a little bit about how we do that in just a second. When it's time for you to interview, so we call this the select phase, we will work with you to review interview protocols. We will work with you to develop questions that are specific to Travis School District so that you can ask candidates questions that will give you an idea as to whether or not these candidates would be a good fit and a good match for Travis and their students and families. So we will help you through that process. We most frequently are sitting in interviews with you, but we are in the back of the room. We don't participate in those, but we are there to facilitate the ins and the outs and work with what our staff is designated to help us during that process as well. And then the transition, we collect an awful lot of notes when we are working with school districts. And one of the things that we can do that we feel really is a benefit for the superintendent coming in is we sit down with that person and we review the notes. We review the things that we've heard. We review the things that have been summarized in the leadership profile, but we have our notes that we can back that up with. The work that we do in the engage process can also be used to help you with LCAP, with district strategic planning, help the new superintendent develop their own goals, and work with you as a board in that goal setting process as they set up their evaluation, which will occur at the end of the first year. So those are some of the things that we can do in the transition phase, as well as come back and do coaching or help develop the superintendent evaluation process. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to share some additional information to complement everything that Valerie just shared. And the first is that every stage of the process is, we have what's called a board portal, and I'm going to show you one, that collects the documents and links to information so that throughout the process, it's very transparent to the board. The board can see everything that's happening in real time, and you don't need to wait to have a board meeting or to get some email thread of new information. So it's accessible only to the board, and it's updated on a regular basis. This is the information that's in that board portal. And again, I'm going to show you one in just a minute. I know we're sort of short on time, so I'll go quickly here. And then the other thing is many of the advantages that Valerie mentioned are included on this slide, including that we have a high retention rate. We put a lot of work into giving you a very qualified slate of candidates that are all pre-screened. And as you can see, 75% of the superintendents are placed by HYA associates. That means, Valerie and I have deep connections in the state, and 94% of our superintendents stay the full term of their first contract. For advertising, this is a very big distinction for HYA because we are national. We are the go-to site for administrators, and I'm going to show you this link in just a minute. This is where superintendents or people who are looking to become superintendents frequently will look because we have national, there's a national search. And so even if it's just California, they will tend to come here to look. Okay, so I'm going to stop this slideshow and briefly hop over to a different link here. Let's see, let me get to a different spot here. Okay, so here we go. The first is the board portal. So again, I'm going to share this with you. This is for a search that we just recently, literally within I think a week, we just completed with North Monterey County. And this search is, this board portal is, again, it's only available to the board, but you can see all of the documents that you may have questions about throughout the search. You can just look them up. There's the timeline, the planning meeting, the proposal. This is the schedule of focus groups. This is the leadership profile. We actually post it here so that you can look at it if you have questions about it. We also put on the survey, all the results of the survey. We put all the advertisements here. And then, as Valerie mentioned, there will be a slate of candidates presented to you, and we give you them in tiers. In other words, we rank order them in terms of what we think are the best matches for your desired characteristics. And I'm not going to open this because this is confidential, but all of the candidates, all of their application materials are here, so you can look at them and study them before we meet, and then you might have questions about them. And of course, Valerie and I are available to you 24/7. In addition to Valerie and me, we also have a full-time team of HYA support staff that's available as well. This is the, as I mentioned, the go-to site. So if someone goes to the HYA website, they can go to find a job. And as you can see, we've got jobs throughout the country here. And people can look, and these are the ones listed first are the ones that HYA are involved with the search. But after we get down here, we also maintain the connections and the resources for people to find searches that we're not supporting. And so this is because we have a commitment we know how important it is to have a good leader for a school district, and that is why HYA supports all candidates for, regardless of whether we are conducting the search or not. So now I'm going to go back to our slideshow just briefly here. Just a few more slides. I think we have just a little bit more time here. Okay.
Dr. Henderson, Dr. Pitts?
Yes. Yes.
That is the 15 minutes.
Oh,
We're
okay.
going to move into 5 minutes from the board
Okay,
of questions. And we only have 3 of us here, so I
Okay.
asked Ivory, Will, and myself to be cognizant and not eat up too much of the time. Ivory,
Sure.
do you have anything you would like to? I'm just going to go down the line here, if it's okay.
Sure.
If- Do you,
Well, just a couple of things that I wrote down. Just you said,
we're not able to hear.
sorry. Okay, you said that you have a lot of experience in Northern California, specifically in our area, or just in Northern California in general? Doing your superintendent searches in our region?
I've never done a search in Solano. I've done searches in Marin, Santa Clara, Monterey, Santa Cruz,
Okay.
and a couple in Orange County as well.
Okay, and I believe Valerie, you're the
Yes.
teacher at San Jose State?
No,
No,
that's
Alicia
that's
is.
me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so you're a full-time teacher professor, right?
Yes.
So how does that impact your firm's ability to be 100% devoted to our search?
Well, so I teach classes that are evening classes typically, and they're on a hybrid schedule, and so I don't teach every week. So for example, I typically have a Tuesday night class, but my class doesn't meet this Tuesday. So I don't meet with my class every week. That's pretty much the schedule I
And
follow.
Alicia, you're only part-time at the university, right?
Yeah.
She's not full-time. That's another thing us retired superintendents do. I just stepped away from San Francisco State because I was also supervising interns who were working on their principal's credentials, but decided to focus fully on searches at the end of December.
Okay, and I know we only have 5 minutes, so my last question was, basically you indicated that you would tailor your searches to what our needs are. So let's just say you were selected tonight by this board, then when would we expect to have our first meeting with you, and what would that meeting look like? You would just be gathering data. Can you kind of explain that process of how you would approach preparing this district for a superintendent search?
Well, the first thing that we do is meet with the board, and the date that we have here on the timeline is by March 8th, and that is to go through all the details and confirm that we have the timeline ready, make sure that we have all the focus groups that you want us to meet with. And once we have that, we get going right away. As Valerie said, we advertise the next day. So it gets started really quickly. We do have a tentative timeline here that would be worked out with the board. We can meet with you on your schedule as soon as possible, actually. We do see that we could have a superintendent in place for you comfortably by July 1st, to start on July 1st.
And the board planning meeting typically takes about an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. You could choose to do it with the full board, you could choose to do it with the subcommittee.
And it could be in person or remote, and we're very flexible.
Thank you. I know my other colleagues have questions. Thank you.
Drs. Henderson and Pitts, thanks for your time tonight. Really appreciate your presentation. My name is Will Wade. I'm a brand-new board member, so this is a first experience for me. So with that in mind, I appreciate the process that you laid out, but I'm interested in some of your personal opinions to kind of gauge what you think is important for the superintendent we select. So my question is, based on your extensive personal and professional experience, what qualities and characteristics do you consider important for successful superintendents in today's modern dynamic public education districts? And how will your screening process identify those characteristics?
Well, the engage phase is going to identify the desired characteristics of this board and this community. And those are our starting points for candidates to be a match for this district. Clearly, there are some characteristics that are important for any superintendent. And we have quite a bit of information to support the board with that. But we will be catering this really specifically to your district. Valerie, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, I'll just mention a few that we think are very, very important today. Obviously, the ability to be out in your community, be visible, develop relationships, work with you, developing that team, developing the governance team. Communication is first and foremost. How that's done, the manners in which it's done, the ability to work with diverse groups, hear diverse perspectives, bring people to consensus even when there are differences of opinion, and to be fair and listening. Those are some of the characteristics, in addition to the ability to strategic plan, be visionary, understand what needs to happen so that the students can get the very best education possible in Travis Unified.
Outstanding. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
We're going to go over real quick. Let's keep a track so we give the other two firms the extra minute. I have one question because I have 4 questions. My colleague Will, your answered a couple of mine, your brochure's answered. So I have one question for you. Are you familiar, do you deal a lot with the non-traditional candidates that will apply?
Yes, absolutely. We do get non-traditional candidates, and non-traditional candidates tend to come to HYA because we're a national firm. Those who are thinking about transitioning out of a different arena into education, we are the go-to agency for that. But yes, we do get some non-traditional applicants, and if the board is interested in that, then we would absolutely bring those candidates to you.
Doctors, again, on behalf of the board, thank you very much for your time. The information about the qualifications and services to be provided and your insight about the process. We appreciate your interest in working with us on this very important project.
Thank you. Thank you for the work that you do.
Yes, thank you so much. Good luck with your search, and we hope we get to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So we'll be sure to give, what was that, like 6 minutes or? Yes. Okay. I want to be sure to give the next firm that too. I really don't have to ask them to leave the room because they're gone. So then we'll bring in the next firm, correct?
Matt, do you mind if I ask one question?
Sure, go ahead.
That's just specific to this presentation. Pam, based on your experience, would you concur that HYA is kind of the standard for hiring superintendents for soliciting and advertising positions? Or did they overstate their position, the system in place that they use?
Are you referring to their term, the go-to?
Yes.
Yes. Honestly, I'm being very honest that the 3 firms that I think you're going to hear from this evening are really the 3 firms that are most frequented by people who are looking for superintendent positions. HYA does have a very comprehensive portal. The information that they both presented, all of that is absolutely very, very true.
Okay.
But I truly, both Leadership Associates and McPherson and Jacobson are firms that are very well known in this industry.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll bring in Leadership's Associates?
Yes.
Christian, is our mic on up there?
Mic check, yes. Okay.
Well, welcome, and we're pleased to have you join us. Is there anything we can do to assist you in advance of your presentation?
No, sir, I'm prepared.
I like your tie. Hey, go ahead, if you would start with introduction and 15-minute presentation, please.
Okay, thank you very much. My name's Tom Chagnon, and I'm a partner with the firm of Leadership Associates. And so the district right now could be feeling like this joke, and the joke goes, how could the farmer tell which one of his cats got into the duck pen? And so you think, well, what was it? My 7-year-old grandson told me the joke. And the answer is, it was because he could tell the cat had the down in the mouth look. The duck down in the mouth look. And the district's having the down in the mouth look because Miss Pam's retiring and moving on. So it's like, oh gosh. And we know this time could be a stressful time for school districts. And so we are certainly prepared to help as you move through that process. I'm going to run through some slides. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the two people that would be assigned to your search. My name, Tom Chagnon. The last position I held in the real world of education, I was the county superintendent for 3 terms in Stanislaus County. We were based in Modesto. Prior to that, I was the local superintendent in Stanislaus County. We have 25 school districts in Stanislaus County, and as you know, the role of the county is to help support and direct the local school districts and keep them out of financial problems and help support them with curriculum and other technology needs. So that was a role that I really enjoyed. Prior to that, was a teacher and a coach for several years. Total 43 years as an educator. Rich Fisher is not here this week. He's attending a family reunion that they'd scheduled out for quite some time. He said his wife would probably kick him out if he didn't attend that. So he was out of town. But Rich Fisher and I, in the last 2 years, have conducted 16 searches together. Leadership Associates always has at least 2 partners that work on a search because we believe that having a different set of eyes and ears on the project really helps. Rich had a terrific career as an educator, teacher, coach, and then he was superintendent in 3 districts. He finished in Mountain View, Los Altos in the Bay Area. Prior to that was superintendent at Lake Tahoe. So those are the 2. I'd like to just give you a little bit of information about the support team that we have in the admin. And I just want to tell you that this is really key. This is really key to a smooth search because 3 of the 4 ladies were executive assistants to superintendents prior to coming to work with us full-time. And they know the role of that. This search process, there are periods where it gets hectic because there's deadlines and there's community events that take place, and we've got to have dates and invitations and those things that go out. Our 3 ladies, Linda, Penny, and Serena, will walk your administrative assistant through the process, answer any questions. They're on call 24/7, and they give samples of, okay, this is the wording that goes on the board agenda for this next meeting, and so they are very, very helpful and will be key to this. Serena would be assigned to this search, working with Rich and myself. The next slide just talks a little bit about Leadership Associates and the purpose of our firm, and I want to tell you, why is that not? Okay, there we go. Who we are and what we believe and what we value. And I want you to know that here's the deal. We have 23 partners in our firm. We're all partners. We're invested in this firm. None of us are consultants. We are all partners in this firm. When I first joined the firm 4 years ago, the thing that struck me, number one, was the fact that none of these individuals needed to be working. They could all be country clubbing. but they had a deep sense of desire to keep giving back, a burning desire to support. We have hundreds of years of experience among our partners, and that really impressed me. The second thing is that we're all former superintendents, so we've walked in those shoes before. We know the highs and the lows and the challenges associated with that, and I just was really impressed with the group when I met with them. We have people that have been state superintendents of the year, Access state presidents, a very well-connected group out of those 23 partners. The next slide, I want you to show also that what separates us from a lot of other firms is we meet semi-annually as a group. We pick a location and we all come together. And this is, if you're a partner, you're expected to be there for those 3 days. Well, what do you do for 3 days? We review, we acknowledge the success that the firm has had, but most importantly, we reflect on the challenges and what's happening. What does the future look like for school districts in the state of California, and how can we best help new superintendents meet those challenges? So this is a picture of all of us gathered at one of our sessions as we were going through the process of what's happening in Northern California, what's in Central, Southern California, all of these different areas, and what are the hot topic issues that are important to school districts and their boards, and how can we help them match candidates to their vacancies. Okay, then the next slide I want you to show you is we are partners in other areas besides just doing searches. Leadership Associates has two sides of the house. There's the search side, 23 partners, and we also have a professional development side. And that side of the house has several different academies. Similar to AXA, you want to go to a CBO academy, you want to go to a assistant to superintendent academy, well, you can do that, and we offer those same academies. I think it's interesting to note that we have over 1,000 subscribers to our website that are strictly administrators that look at our website for the postings and the jobs that we have. So we train these people, we know them, so when we have openings come up, we can call one of the partners and say, hey, I understand you've been doing the CBO Academy. Do you have some potential stars in that academy? Because we'd like to talk to them about applying for this job. This is our statewide reach around the state of California. As I mentioned, Rich and I cover a lot of Northern California. I want you to know that we are considered the premier executive search firm in the state. And why is that? Because so far this year, we are 60% of the searches conducted in the state of California are being done by Leadership Associates. All you have to do is open up the back of EdCal and just look at who's doing those searches. 60%. Since I've been with the firm in 4 years, we are almost at 68% of the searches in the last 4 years have been conducted by Leadership Associates. We do not advertise. The only advertising are you people when we ask if you would like to write a comment that goes on our website, and that's called reputation, and we're very proud of that. In the course of the history of Leadership Associates, we've conducted over 650 searches. I also like to let you know that we're familiar with working with school districts that are around bases. I'm proud to say that when I was the county superintendent, we started a charter school in our county that was a military-based charter school. And we're blessed that Camp Parks over in the Livermore Pleasanton area allowed us to bring our students over that were interested in the military, and they'd go through boot camp, and they would have training sessions over there, and the commanders would come to our school in Stanislaus County and talk to the cadets about those that might be interested in a career in the military. When we did the Yuba County Office of Education search just recently, a lot of those families are at Beale, and so we met with commanders and different people at those bases. So we're familiar with students that attend districts that are from military families. I just wanted to say why us. I wanted to say the third bullet down is we have 1,100 subscribers to our website. I think that that's important. Towards the bottom, we're partners. We're not consultants. We're vested in our firm. And we're all actively engaged. There are 9 partners that are currently adjunct professors at local universities. You don't become or stay as a professor unless you're up on what's happening locally with education. When we get together on our semi-annual retreats, we have book studies, and we're all required to read current education books so that we come in and we can carry on a conversation about issues. We have a state and national personnel connections. Several of our board members, our partners are current board members. Rich currently is a board member in El Dorado County, my partner. So they understand the concerns and what the discussions are going on with boards. I just want to go through quickly the process. All firms basically do a similar process. They meet with the board, they do a timeline, they say, this is your search. We're here to help and support you through that process. We're going to meet with community, we're going to get input. One of the things that Leadership Associates does, from all that gathering of comments and the voices that we hear, we write basically a job description. We like to call it our position description, and when that goes on our website, candidates can look at that and basically decide if they want to apply or not, because they're looking at, well, I'm not sure, I don't have that desire. And so when people do apply, we know they're interested and serious about the job. We remind board members that we are here to support you and make this as a smooth and stress-free process as possible. That is our goal, and we have the administrative staff that can make sure that that takes place. If we are selected by your board, we certainly meet right away and go over those timelines so that there are no questions in anyone's mind about the process and the timeline for that to take place. The support and development services, just so you know how widespread our firm is, we're in 7 counties and 180 districts that are participating in our Superintendent Leadership Series. Superintendents take our programs so that they can better enhance their position as leaders in their districts. The next one, we have a leadership network where we're on Zoom calls with superintendents on a regular basis. We have 47 districts currently participating in that. Assistant Superintendent Leadership Network, 45 districts participating in that. And other professional developments, we do board governance trainings, we do conflict facilitation, evaluations, contracts, all of those are part of Leadership Associates. I want to just conclude with some closing thoughts. This is your search. We're here to help and support and make sure that it's smooth and that you find a match that's going to be best for Travis. That's what our job is to do. I want you to know, in my final comments here, every summer, Leadership Associates hosts a 3-day conference for new superintendents in San Diego, and it's really great. We pay the cost for a first or second year superintendent. This last year, because we offer the reputation and the word, we've been doing this now for 4 years, it has grown. So if you're not a first, second superintendent, you're going to have to pay your own freight. But when we were doing the introductions, and all these superintendents are in this room together, one of our partners got up and said, we did the numbers on this, and the people gathered here for the next 3 days that are going to embed themselves in dialogue with other superintendents about what are your challenges, what have you had success with. Do you realize that you represent 2,200,000 students in the state of California? That's over 30% of the students in the state of California are being led by superintendents that are gathered right here that we have helped put in those positions. That's a powerful statement, and that really makes you feel that you are doing good work, putting people in places where students have the best opportunity to be successful and grow. because in the end, that's what it's all about. Now, we had at this last session in San Diego, that one of the speakers and presenters couldn't attend, but they had contracted, and so who shows up? Stephen Covey himself, the man. We make a phone call. He said, sorry, our guy got ill, he can't make it, but you know what? I'm flying down and I'll do your keynote, and gave every participant one of his new books. I mean, so the caliber of people that we work with is right up there. So I would appreciate the opportunity, Rich and I both, to work with you. It just, it would be a great opportunity for all of us. So, thank you very much. Any questions and discussion?
Tom, thank you very much. I will now see if there are any questions from the board members. Board members? Go ahead.
I've got a scripted question here, Tom, because beg your pardon, but I'm a new school board member and a
Congratulations.
non-educator, so I appreciate your perspective. So my question is, well, first and foremost, thank you for describing the process that you and your company practice in order to find the best candidate for the position. I appreciated your presentation. Mine's a little bit more personal, though. Based on your extensive personal and professional experience, what qualities and characteristics do you consider important for successful superintendents in today's modern, dynamic public education districts?
Well, one of the top things is that a candidate, and we get this from the feedback when we go to districts, they want someone who is going to be honest, they want someone that's going to have integrity, they want someone that will listen, that will be transparent and an open communicator, and they want someone that will be involved with the district, that will get out of the office, visit other schools, and be transparent. Those are just a handful of characteristics that would make a successful superintendent for any district. And then to know what the challenges are. And we go over that with the candidates that are selected for interviews, and many of them have already done their homework and they know some of those challenges. But when we talk with people, we like to say, what are the challenges here? Because we don't want a new superintendent coming in and get blindsided and say, well, I wish somebody would have told me. I could have been thinking about that. But, you talk about, well, we want somebody that for sure has to have a doctorate degree. I'm not a big fan of that. I want someone that's going to be on the ground, boots on the ground, that's going to greet people and meet them. He's going to be one of them. Because you can't be aloof and be in this profession and think you're going to be successful. One of the highlights of my career when I was a local superintendent was once a month I would trade places with an employee. We had a little lottery, and the only thing I couldn't do was drive a bus. But I was in the cafeteria for a day working with the cafeteria folks, or I was out substituting in the classroom for somebody, because they have to see that individual as real, someone that is not going to say, delegate that and do this. No, that doesn't work. You need to be seen as someone that's one of us.
Great, thanks, Tom. And then one last question, I apologize. I know it was on the expanded version, but it's not on this abridged version. What was the cost for your services from Leadership Associates for this?
Just slightly over $21,000,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. And that's, we say that's all inclusive because we don't come back and say, whoa, you asked for another session of this and that's going to cost you mileage, and no, that's.
Great.
That's what it is.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Board Member Ivory? No, go. No, I want you to go, please.
Okay, so Tom, you have the gift of gab, so I'll give you that, and that was my opener for you. So, what is your, do you track the success rate of your superintendents? Interesting, our union president made an opening statement tonight. The tenure of a superintendent, 3 years, 15 years, they moved on and get pushed out. Do you guys track The average time that your superintendents that you place spend in the districts?
We did, but since COVID, we have not. The average stay for superintendents in the state of California is 3 years or less. We know that. And I know when I first started 4 years ago, we had the research where people that we put in place we had, and I'm not certain the percent, whether it was 70 or 75% were there for at least 5 years. Well, that was something that I said, well, we need to broadcast that because people want someone that's just gonna be with them, because you can't, 1 year is you're just listening and trying to get your feet on the ground. The second year, you're trying to maybe implement some things, and then the third year, oh, he's applied for that job, and then you start the whole process over again. And consistency is what districts need to survive and to prosper. So I could get that information, but I know COVID really took a chunk out of that. And but I know that 4 years ago, we were at about 70%, 5 years or more.
Okay, was that his 15-minute time, or was that our 5-minute
That
time?
was the 5, but there's an additional minute.
Okay.
Well, it's like a soccer match, the penalty.
Yeah.
time.
Well, again, Matt, out of respect, I'll hold my other questions. You can go ahead.
Tom, real quick questions. About your process, do you screen, interview, and and tell candidates no before they get to us?
Yes, so,
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off, because I got to ask this real quick. That's what I needed to know. The other one is if you were selected, can you get this done in 8 weeks?
that would be fast tracking what we could.
Okay,
And on the screening, we give the board every candidate application. We rank them for you based on our background and references.
I understand, and thank you. One real quick one. Your firm, you talked a lot about superintendent, everybody's a superintendent, prior superintendent, yada, yada, yada. I get that, I appreciate that, great careers. What about the non-traditional candidate that can lead? You don't just cut them out, do you?
No.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
We encourage everybody to apply.
Tom, again, we're pressed, and I thank you. I want to be fair to everybody on the same, so on behalf of the board, thank you very much for your time, the information about your qualifications and the service to be provided, and your insight about the process. We appreciate your interest in working with us on this project. I got to ask you, if you don't mind at this time to leave, we'll bring the next firm in. And again, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Matt, as he's leaving, it's not a question, it's just a comment. Tom, I like the fact that you track your superintendents and you provide ongoing training. I want to say that earlier.
Okay,
So I just want to
okay,
leave you with that. Thank you.
okay.
Did you like the joke?
Oh, my gosh. McPherson and Jacobson presentation, correct?
Absolutely.
Welcome, we are pleased to have you join us. Is there anything we can do to assist you in advance of your presentation?
Just in front of you, you have a packet from us, and there's some information in there, but it's a little bit more detailed than what's on the PowerPoint, but feel free to read that at your leisure later on or while I'm speaking, either way.
Thank you, sir. Why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Yeah.
And I've got to hold you to 15 minutes.
I will stay within that time frame.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Adam Clark. I am currently a consultant with McPherson and Jacobson. I am also currently the superintendent of the Mount Diablo Unified School District. My partner, who could not make it here this evening, is Dr. Reyes Gauna, and he is the superintendent of a school district, not Mount Diablo. And so tonight I'm going to share with you the services from McPherson and Jacobson. First of all, I do want to thank you for having us here this evening, and I understand that this is probably the most important decision that a board makes in hiring and evaluating that superintendent. And really the role of the superintendent is to implement the vision of the board. And so this is an extremely important hire. So I will say that McPherson Jacobson, we are one of the leading national search firms, and we have a nationwide network of experienced consultants. Here in California, we have 18 consultants. I'm having trouble with the advancement of the slide, so if I could just say, yeah, next slide. Next slide. So we have 18 current consultants in California. 5 of those consultants are sitting superintendents, and 2 of those consultants are cabinet level administrators. And also within our organization is that we have a sustainability and leadership. Close to 85% of the administrators and superintendents that we place are still in their positions, and we've also provided that data within the packet for you this evening. First of all, we believe that every student is entitled to a high-quality education. Next slide. Actually, back one. Thank you. We believe every student is entitled to a high-quality education, and it really does start with strong leadership to ensure that happens. Our mission is to ensure that all searches result in strong leadership that is going to instill educational excellence throughout the organization. So I will say we do not hire superintendents. We work for school boards, and we help facilitate the search that this board is putting forward. Next slide. We represent school boards, and we have a process. However, we understand that each board is unique and may want to tweak the particular process, and so we are here to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the board and keeping the board abreast of the progress each and every step of the way. When I talked about our recruitment rates, almost 80% of our administrators are still in the job over the past 5 years, and over 50% are still in the leadership positions over the past 10 years, and over 40% during the past 15 years. So that is a track record of placing high-quality leaders in these critical educational leadership positions. We do our searches in a 5-step process, and our superintendent searches will not exceed $22,250. So I'm going to go over those.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Our searches are $22,250. So this search will not exceed that amount.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go over the 5-step process. Next slide. So our phases, our searches are set up into 5 phases. Go to the next slide, please. And first of all, phase 1 is that we're going to identify those desirable characteristics, and we're going to work with you all to set up timelines, and not only the timelines, but we're going to determine which media advertising venues are going to work best for this particular search. Obviously, we have all the social media access. We also, with the current organizations, we can do ads in those publications as well. But it's really, obviously, we want to take direction from the board, but also we have a process in place that we can implement. Next slide. So within our phase 2, we want to make sure that we identify stakeholder voice, and we want to make sure that we have a venue set up so that stakeholders can give input into the characteristics that they want to see in their superintendent. We understand that there's, just as in any district, you have multiple, and very complex community groups. And some desires may lean in one way and other desires may lean in another way. And so it's real important to be able to balance those out and make sure that although everyone may not get their way, but at least their voice has been heard and they have had input into the process. We want to prepare summaries of what all of these stakeholders have given input on, and then we want to be able to disseminate that, and from that develop a unique application that fits the needs of this board's goals and the needs of the district. Next slide, please. So in phase 2, it's working really on advertising the position, on posting the application, and notifying interested applicants. Of course, we're going to actively recruit applicants to apply. And in looking for those, I know that in the educational world, there are many different skills that need to come in play in order to run a school district. You may have some that have different strengths, have different experiences, but we are going to look for the best possible fit to bring in front of this board for you all to interview. We're going to keep our applicants informed every step of the process and make sure that their questions are being met and that their needs are being met in terms of information, in terms of things that we can do to help that process. Next slide. We as the consultants, we will read all of the applications. We will evaluate each applicant. On the final candidates, we will conduct complete reference checks, and we'll review the final candidates with this board. So it'll be a collaborative process where we sit down, we look at the final candidates, and we decide together, from the board's input on who we're going to reach out to interview. We'll develop interview questions, and we'll close the loop on all the candidates. Next slide, please. Going into phase 4, in the interview preparation, we'll review the interview questions. We'll establish procedures, and if there's a visitation that is warranted, we'll take that stakeholder input, and we'll contact final candidates to schedule those final interviews. Next slide, please. And continuing in phase 4, we will coordinate with our candidates to make sure that they're informed of their status, and making sure that we are personally contacting them. And again, on the final candidates, we will do the comprehensive background checks on them. Next slide, please. And then with our transition to success, we're going to work with the board on performance objectives, and we're going to provide a guarantee that the person who you all select will be in their position for 2 years. So with that, I can open it up to questions, and hopefully I can answer any questions that you all might have about this process and why McPherson-Jacobson should be your choice.
Dr. Clark, thank you
Yes.
very much. I will now see if there's any questions for the board. We're going to limit this also. Which one of you board members would love to go first?
Dr. Clark, I appreciate your time. So this is canned, everybody. This is the third time they've heard this question. So I apologize ahead of time, but you and I are new. I will say I'm a new board member, so I'm learning the process as we go. So I'll ask you my canned question, which is, based on your extensive personal and professional experience, what qualities and characteristics do you consider important for successful superintendents in today's modern, dynamic public education system?
Yeah, so really what, as a, my years of experience, but as a superintendent, is that our goal is always the students. But how you get to that, you need to be able to work with a high-functioning board, and that means that those systems and protocols that the board establishes need to be in place and need to be followed, and then that person needs those skills to be able to manage and delegate and facilitate the operations of all branches within the district. There is not one branch within a district that can operate without the other branch. And so therefore, your maintenance and operations has to be on the same page with your curriculum and instruction and student services and special education, teaching and learning. All of those need that attention from that leader and making sure that the will of the board is being felt throughout the organization. So that is really those skills that a leader in today's time needs to be able to possess.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Dr. Clark, thank you for the presentation tonight. And my question would be, you said that 80% of your admins are still on the job, meaning that your superintendents that you hired are still in place.
For 5 years, correct.
After 5 years, they're still on the job. Okay, so that's what you were referring to.
Yeah.
Okay, so but you don't know the average longevity.
So 80% are still on the job over the 5 years, and 50% for the past 10 years.
Okay.
And 40% for the past 15 years.
Okay, those are good stats. That was the one question I didn't get to finish last time, was that our last two superintendents here, I believe, have been here, were on the job for at least 10 years. And I know that's, I don't want to say it's unusual, but it's longer than most districts, because I know they say the average is like 3 years that superintendent's going to be in that position. And so, given that, longevity of our history here, it's important for us to, or at least I believe that this board will be looking for someone who's going to be, vested to be here for the long haul. And so that would be one thing that we would be looking for. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Doctor, I have a couple comments and just like two quick questions. One is, I like you talked about the vision of the board, because the vision of the board should be the vision of the community. I appreciate that. That's way top on my list. What I really appreciate you saying straight up is you don't hire soups. I love your presentation. It wasn't a salesmanship job of mine. And you talked about students and education. Now, here's a yes or no question for you, real quick. Your firm, because we talked about price, right? Mm-hmm. So the cost estimate is $17.5, right? And if I'm right here, it's not to exceed $22,250. Okay. With a detailed list of expenses that can be predetermined according to the necessity. So that window is dependent on which direction we take, if it stays there or goes high, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. So, Dr. Clark, again, on behalf of the board, thank you very much for your time, the information about your qualifications and the services to be provided, and your insights about the process. We appreciate your interest in working with us on this especially important project. I have to ask you to leave, Doctor. We're going to go into discussions at this time and hopefully land on a firm. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Moving forward, everyone, number 5, general discussion by board, RE firms, and representatives. At this time, board members, my question to you is, before we get started, do you want to go one by one, or do we want to take a consensus? Is there already one that's right now high on our list and start there? What's the preference of the board?
I kind of gave each one of them a number based on the information that I gathered during the presentations.
Okay.
And so I can share that. 3 was my highest number, and that went to leadership and associates. Gave them a 3.
Ivory, if I could, so 3, it's McPherson and,
Then, no, McPherson they got a 2.
okay, so who was your highest one?
Associates, leadership associates.
Second one?
Yeah, and then HYA got a 1. And so that's just an opener.
Right.
That's just how I evaluated the presentation, the information that I took in. During the discussion phase, I feel like, that could change, but that's where I'm at now. If I had to choose one of them right now, I'm not ready to make that choice right at this moment. So I just gave them a rating.
Oh, okay, so why don't we do this? We'll take them in the order they were presented, we'll talk about them, and then let's see how we land on the drop zone. Sound good? Okay, so the first one was, let me get back to my notes here. HYA. If you guys, why don't, I'll make my comments, we'll go down, and on the second one, we'll go reverse order, and you'll always be in the middle. Is that okay?
Sounds great.
Okay, so HYA, Dr. Henderson and Dr. Pitts. Here's my thoughts, and let me get the right one here. They were the most expensive, is that correct? Am I right?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay,
What was their price? if I may?
23,500.
23,500. And that's the starting price, or that's the max?
right. So in research prior to this with that firm, here's the impression with help of others that I came up with. Agency is more familiar with the richer counties of the Bay Area because of where they've done business, such as Marin and larger districts within the districts.
That's HYA.
Pardon me?
You say H, so I'm just clarifying, make sure I understand who you're talking about, so.
Yes,
HYA, okay.
they were the Zoom,
Yeah.
the group. So that's a little background. I know both of those gals are very educated, experienced, and know, but they're one of the 2 firms that, to me, it was all about, you've got to be up here if we're going to recruit you. We're going to reach out. It wasn't personal. It wasn't personal enough for me, and there wasn't enough or any emphasis on Traverse Unified School District, our size of our district, and I think that's huge, and I think that's very important. Will?
I'll just start off by saying all 3, I think, are highly capable and competent, and the price margin is kind of splitting hairs, so any of those didn't really push me over. So I'm kind of talking on the periphery as I try to identify pros and cons for both. For HYA, I did feel and get a sense that the 2 doctors who presented understood our area. They were local, so I think they would be easily absorb our desires, our content, and our discretion. I I don't know if it was a positive or negative, but obviously they have a super slick online presence and everything, which, that doesn't always mean success to me, but I do like the fact that they do have a national presence. And that folks go there and can see not just all the advertisements, but all the candidates to use that. So it seems like a pretty big pool to me, which could again be a pro or a con. But I do like the thought of casting a wide net to find the best candidate. And I felt like they may have had the best engine to do so. But as a result, they also lost this local feel as well. So again, without seeing the candidate list, I don't know if that's a pro or con. I did get the sense it was kind of a big business, though. It was a little disconnected. It was a little online Zoomish, and I didn't get that personal connection as much as I did with our other two presenters. So, and then I echo the majority of Ivory's previous comments as well. So my thoughts on HYA.
Thank you. Board Member Irene?
Yeah, well, I want to start by saying that the number I gave them, I like all three of these firms. And when HYA started, I was thinking, man, this is going to be tough, because you're right, they're professional, and they do appear to be, connected with the language of, the internet, and, I would have preferred to see them in person, but that doesn't necessarily mean that should be a disqualifier. It could mean that they're, have a lot of searches going and they needed to be elsewhere at this time. So again, I'm transitioning into this today's, how we do business. So I'm used to the kind of the old way. So I like that, that face-to-face when it comes to these types of decisions. But I certainly don't want that to take away from anything that they potentially could offer. Will, you made the comment about, I think, actually, Matt, you made the comment about them being up here and there's no room for the candidates at this level. Well, I kind of have mixed feelings on that, although I understand what you're saying. But my mixed feelings is that we want the cream of the crop. We want that top candidate, but we also want that candidate that can get in the trenches. And I think that's what you were alluding to, is that you felt an absence of that, during their presentation. The question about the non-traditional, I didn't pick up on that at first, what you were asking, but I understand what you were saying, and I kind of, apparently she understood the untraditional candidate route, and so I don't think that would be an issue or concern. So, I mean, I could, but I will say that I don't like the fact that they wasn't quite as personable as as the other two applicants. So.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll, the next one will be leadership. Ivory, why don't you start and take it back down this way on leadership, please?
Yeah. Well, Tom kind of dove in and things that it's kind of hard being first, and that's where I think HYA were at a disadvantage, because by the time they were interviewed, then you kind of had a few thoughts that were developing, and so when Tom came in, it's like he was just, poking holes everywhere, where he qualified himself by, being a county superintendent for he did 3 terms. I didn't get a chance to ask the question, with those 4-year terms, I was trying to determine if he was a county superintendent of schools for 12 years, which means that he had a lot of experience as a superintendent, which obviously transfers over to being more experienced and understanding what to look for in a superintendent. So, 43, the two of them have 43 years of experience together. I know that longevity, tends to speak volumes. I mean that they've seen a lot in all aspects of education. He indicated that he had been a teacher, coach, and so he's been in the trenches. I like, one of the things that really stuck out with me is I like the fact that they follow their superintendents and they have a training program in place for ongoing development. And that was one thing I didn't get from HYA. I don't know that question didn't come up, and it doesn't say that they don't have that, but I just didn't get that in the presentation. And so what's important to me about that is that they're not just placing a superintendent and then going and looking for the next superintendent placement. They have a vested interest in nurturing that superintendent and being there to offer ongoing training. He mentioned a little bit about military experience with the Camp Parks and having, I guess, a charter school in that area. So he did mention the military, and I think that's something that didn't come out from either one of the candidates, other than this candidate, about their experience with placing superintendents in military school districts. There can be uniquenesses that would most likely, I'm sure, will come up in the interview process that didn't come out in this application process tonight. And I know he kind of stumbled on the question I asked about the success rate, and I did want to get clarification about when you said they pay for the first or second year of the superintendent. I wasn't clear on that. If he was saying they pay for the training or they pay the salary, what did he mean there?
I think there were two interesting comments there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pam. It sounded like they paid for the superintendents in their first and second year to attend the training. But what I found really interesting was later in the presentation, he alluded to it, but it was in the expanded product. They actually have a guarantee. If the superintendent vacates the position, for free, they will go ahead and do the entire process over again to hire a new superintendent, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, as I say, he was the gift of gab. He was pulling it on pretty thick there, and I think there was some good. I'm glad that you picked up on that. I think that is a quality, that I didn't hear from the other two candidates or applicants. So that's all I have, right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate and I concur, Ivory. A couple things that I picked up on additionally. I appreciated the fact that I felt like they were California-focused as opposed to HYA. So to your point, not only from a hiring perspective, but also the professional development perspective. And I won't repeat what you said about that, Ivory, but I will expand on that because I think that's really important because it gives me a sense that beyond just hiring superintendents, they're vested, as you said, but they're also engaged and involved and understand not only the current lay of the land about personnel that are available, but also the policies that are affecting those districts as well. So while, some of the others had recency of experience, I think that's invaluable in the academic environment that they're involved in that capacity. And I think that would only, inform their hiring processes and practices, not to mention give them a pretty deep pool of candidates, because every day they're engaging with those candidates on the professional development side. So I really appreciated that. And then one last one, Krista, this is a shout out to you. I will say the thought of a dedicated admin support personnel that would help us not only guide the process, but also inform, our public meetings so we can articulate where we're at in the process and where it's going, I thought was actually very valuable as well. And I didn't hear either of the other companies mention that service either. So those were the pros. And I will also highlight, while it's negligible, it is the cheapest contract. On the order of $1,500, but $1,500 is $1,500, so I give them a pro there as well.
The first thing I'm going to address, well, don't take this like I disagree with you. This is just devil advocates, okay? When the company says, because they're trying to sell us a service, I think everybody agrees on, when the company says, hey, this time, if it doesn't, we'll do it free. Well, if you got to do that, you didn't do a very good job. The other thing that comes to my mind, because I've seen this happen in similar, not close, even close to this, is I understand the education and the keep going, but let's be realistic. My realistic thoughts are they're in the business to make money and they're in the business to recruit. So how many of these conferences are they not pulling superintendents away because they're better fit over here and then they get to come back there? So, I don't know if it's my skeptical mind or whatever, but there's so many. The guy's a nice guy. I think he sells his product well. I don't like them screening the candidates. I like the screening, but don't take people off that apply. Let us give you the list to spend our money on to search. Just too many stats for me. That's just how I am. We got bombarded, I feel like, with stats and this. I get all that. Great hero wall for that company, but things have really changed since COVID. And there's so many superintendents that have adapted, and there's superintendents that haven't. And I admire his career and everything, but I just, there's just too much there for me. I'm not in any way sitting up here judging anyone or saying, I respect that gentleman, his firm, and his education. I think we're going into a Rubik's Cube here. So with that said, I'll start off.
Can I clarify,
Sure.
Matt, on that one? So I made a mistake. When I said they guaranteed their services, I actually messed that up. It's actually McPherson and Jacobson that offered the 2-year guarantee, if I'm not mistaken, according to my notes.
I didn't take notes on that.
Did I miss that, Pam?
No, I don't believe you did, but I will say, and I'll double check right now, but I do believe leadership does have a guarantee as well.
Okay. And then to your other point, Matt, I hear what you're saying about the screened portion of it, but that's their job, is to screen everybody. I did value the fact that leadership associates prioritized, based on their recommendation, who they thought the most eligible candidate was. So they didn't cut anybody out, but they made I won't say made our job easier, but they used their professional opinion to inform the process by giving a prioritized list that we could honor or disregard. But so I didn't get the impression that they were cutting anybody out per se.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just, that's, again, there's just so many ways, there's so many exit doors that can be taken, and I'm sorry if I'm kind of overthinking this, but, there's so many scenarios that can play out. There's a lot to me with him, there's a lot of moving pieces, and it's just stats after stats after stats. But let's keep on track, let's go down this one, and then we'll come back and start prioritizing. So McPherson and Jacobson, I have as my top one, and I made mentions to the gentleman, the doctor, when he was there. I think the number one thing is on the research and everything is the fact that he's a CSBA business partner. And I think that's huge. When I first came on here, I was kind of skeptical of CSBA, but then I did go to the conference in San Francisco. I've had interactions with them. John, you still here?
Yes.
Is John still here with us? I'm going to tell you, I went as far as with CBA to see if we can get our legal fees closer to home and up there, and John's right in line with everything. But The thing is I've got a lot of respect for CSBA, and they have a lot more resources. You know, the impression is that the consultant, Reyes Guana, and it's Guana, if I pronounce it right, is familiar with the needs of smaller districts such as ours. Local resident from Lodi. She's, one of the partners leading the charge there, and very, very familiar with that. I don't know, it's the presentation. First off, I'm a fan of CSBA, and then listening to that gentleman and how he broke it down, and when he started off right away, we're not here to hire a superintendent, and it's the vision of the board, which is the vision of the community. It's just what we've been preaching and doing for a year now, and I have a good feeling with them. So, with that said, it's your turn.
Okay. I did want to confirm, I was under the impression that it was Leadership Associates, which was associated with CSBA, or is it,
No, McPherson.
it is McPherson? Okay.
Yeah, McPherson and Jacobs.
Got it, perfect, thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I echo your comments, Matt. Just some of the notes that I had. I don't know if it's good or bad to have sitting superintendents on their selection board. It seems a little incestuous to me, if you know what I mean. So the jury's out on that, I'll just say that. But I appreciated, to your point, his perspective. I appreciated his view of not only the services they provided, but the role of the superintendent in not only the board's interactions, but also the district's operations, which I would kind of expect from a sitting superintendent, though, too. So, again, I don't know if that's a positive or a negative there. And then last but not least, I did have in my notes here to clarify that they did articulate the 2-year guarantee there, which I hear what you're saying, and I know, Ivory, that was really important in your comments is, hey, what is, your history of, sitting superintendents? Let's be honest, there's some incident, things that are outside of the hiring authority's control, and folks may need to depart, and I appreciate that guarantee, kind of like a lemon law, but I don't see that as a negative thing. I will say what I really value, though, to your point, Ivory, is the recruitment rates and the longevity that the positions that McPherson and Jacobson hired, to me, were tremendously impactful beyond the content of the presentation. So those were my notes.
Thank you. Board Member Ivory?
Yeah. So I like McPherson and Jacobs also, and as I said in the beginning, I think all three of these firms, are really creditable. I have to admit I do have a bias because I've worked with CSBA before, and I know the results, and so I have to try to be fair, to all three of these firms and their, the process here. But I did note, the things, like you say, 80% of the, the superintendents are still on the job after 5 years. And Matt, you kind of stole my thunder. I had it written down, but I didn't say anything. So I'm glad you communicated that when you said that you like the fact that they do not hire. And when he said that, that stuck with me because he was the only firm that said that, which means that, we're going to guide you through the process. But you're the one hiring the superintendent, so, we got to make sure that you make the decision on who you, and we're going to, stand by you and put the best candidates we can in front of you. And that was what I took from that statement. I think this firm bring a lot, to the table. I like the 5-step process. Social media, that's what, everybody's into that. even Travis Unified now, so that's not, I mean, that's just kind of the language of the day. And, yeah, I was a little concerned when I saw that, you know, there are two current superintendents who are also, you know, doing this. I guess they're on the search board for CSBA, but they hold on to superintendent's jobs. And I was a little, I mean, that caught my attention when he first said it, but, you know, going through some of the other qualifications and knowing, you know, that we would have a vehicle of ongoing professional development through this firm, and I believe that they would offer support to new superintendents, you know, for ongoing training and mentoring, so that those are important things to consider. And, you know, if you look at, you know, how I kind of put out a numbering system here, if you look at that, Matt, you're saying that they were your top pick, and if you graded them on a scale of 3, then that would, and I had them at a 2, then that gives them 5 of the 9 points. So that already gives them an advantage if we were going to look at, you know, deciding, you know, similar to that way. And it sounds like, you know, the 3 of us are speaking pretty favorably, you know, with this firm. So, those are my comments. I think that all 3 are really good. I think this one brings things that the other 2 don't, and a lot of it has to go with reputation and longevity of professionalism, you know, that they have.
Thank you, Board Member Ivory. And just a comment on both of yours real quick. Personally, I wouldn't have been in favor. I was kind of the same thoughts. Okay, we got superintendent. Oh no, how's this going to work out? But then he said all the right things. And I don't believe he said them because they were the right things to say. I think he believes in the vision.
Yeah.
I think he believes in you're going to hire him. And so I feel comfortable. So gentlemen, board members, as you know, we all 3, our goal is to settle on a firm and have them in here so we can talk to them and get things rolling. But since there's 3 of us, we all 3 have to agree or there's no deal. So there's a million ways. I know we all know there's a million ways we can do it. One of my suggestions is, and if it's dumb, just tell me, Matt, that's dumb, and suggest something else. Why don't we take the order they were and give them a number between 1 and 3 and see how the numbers come out? Or if you'd like to do it a different way, I'm fine with that.
No, I'm fine. Just to clarify, 1 is our top choice or 3 is our top choice?
Let's go 3. Bigger number, top choice. Is that okay?
Yeah, so the most points that are available is 9 points.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And Krista, can I bug you or Pam to take a piece of scratch paper and do the math, and I'll be happy to start with my number 3 will be McPherson. My number 2 will be the gentleman that is a salesman.
Leadership Associates.
What is that one?
Leadership Associates.
Leadership Associates. And the 2 doctors will be number 1.
HYA.
HYA. You're up.
I'm next?
You're next.
All right, I wrote it down before you said it. I had the same. So number 3, McPherson. Number 2, Leadership Associates. Number 1, HYA.
As you know, I started with McPherson. I gave him a 2, but I said I want to have the discussion. And I'm going to say McPherson. I'm going to give them a 3 and move leadership to 2, and then HYA will get the 1.
That would be unanimous.
Let me, so this is all official for Krista, because she'll give me an evil look if I don't read this?
And just to clarify, as I said, going into this, even with me only giving McPherson a 2, they will still have the
numbers.
majority. Yes, so I want to just make it a clean 3 there. So, because I
Thank
do
you.
think that they would give us the best.
So I'm going to go
Because
ahead.
part of my 3 was the presentation and all that, so.
Roger that. Okay, so we'll go on to number 6, motion to select a search firm. Is there a motion to select McPherson and Jacobson?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Subject to the completion of a written agreement, I move that we select McPherson and Jacobson to assist the board with the superintendent search process. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. With that, so John Pearl, our attorney, will contact the others tomorrow and thank them for their time and everything. Just for information for everybody, super quick, off script here, it's John, our attorney, that arranged all of this and reached out to these firms. John, I thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Aren't they still
So
in the back?
we're going to go on to board discussion with selected search firm. So let's invite the selected firm in, please. Just one second, Pam. Board members / gentlemen, my suggestion is, we'll congratulate them. And then how about if, this is my thinking, and correct me. So they've been selected and now they're going to work for us in layman's terms, all of us, everybody here, they're going to take good notes, and they've got, so what do you think when they come in, we congratulate them, and then we just go down and, let's say, hit 3 points each, and then I'm not saying that's all, and then just keep going of 3 until we get things covered. And whenever both of you think that we've done that, then let's just have an open board discussion with them. Is that okay? Or does anyone have any?
My only thoughts, Matt, is that it's, Dr. Clark is able to attend, but Dr. Ghana wasn't able to attend. So anything that we say isn't really going to be received by the entire team. So we may have to repeat it down the line, but I'm not opposed to it. But I'd be curious to know what his preference is before we start getting into the nitty details, if he needs more of his team and presence. Because I think they're just here to present. I don't know if he's postured to start the process tonight.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I think you're right.
and I understand that, and I totally agree with you, but I'd like to arm him with a little bit of our information. And then if he says, hey, we're both, however they want to proceed, that's okay with us, that's fine. What I don't want to do is, and I don't think you wanted me, I just don't want to say thank you, congratulations. Let's give them some of our views, because we still have 2 other board members that need to contact and give views. But let's give them a little jump start so they get a feel for it. Is that okay? Is that okay, Ivory? Okay.
And I'd be curious to give him an opportunity to ask us questions as well, because
Absolutely.
he really didn't have that opportunity as
Why
part of
don't
his
we
presentation.
start with him asking questions? You want to do that?
I would be interested to see what's important to him.
What questions he
Yeah,
asked? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you could move over if you guys want. Hi, ladies.
Dr. Clark, please, at the podium.
Yeah. Dr. Clark, and I think you'll hear from all three of us, congratulations.
Thank you.
I just want to, we're going to let you open with questions first, but I just want to throw this out there. As you know, I know your other associate isn't here, which Board Member Wade pointed out to us. Good call, thank you. But then with that, two of our board members aren't here.
Yeah.
So our thoughts is, if you have some questions, you might get a different answer from all three of us, but that's okay. We might have a few bullet points to throw your way, and then we'll let you start doing what you do best, and we're going to have to get everybody, up to speed and together. And I don't even have to say this, I know you'll initially contact our, my thing is, and I'm not trying to tell you your business is my preference is every single board member, however you want to do it, is contacted on every issue so you have all our perspectives moving forward. Nobody's single anything. Is that okay?
That's how I like to operate.
So again, congratulations. Before we ask the doctor to talk to us, anything, board members you'd like to say? Ivory?
Oh, I just want to congratulate you and look forward to working with you, Dr. Clark.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And I'll echo those comments as well, Dr. Clark. Thank you for a great presentation. We look forward to working with you, and exciting times for our district, and we're glad to have you on the team.
Yep, good. I think probably the number one thing that I need to establish is that point of contact, and I assume that it's Christina. Is it Christina or Christina? Krista. So that's really who we're going to be contacting in terms of calendars, those types of things. I'm not going to bug you all with, can you meet at this particular time? We're going to go to a point person. But definitely when it comes to communication, the way that I communicate as an acting superintendent with my board, you tell one, you tell them all, because that's how you keep things. That's how you get things done. And what we want to do is we want to run a successful search for you all. We want you all to be able to articulate your desires that you want to see in a leader. We want you to be able to articulate, the goals of this district that the community has entrusted you all to make sure happens. And then we want to get moving on this ASAP. So we want to get our desired characteristics out, get our advertisement out, and we want to start, really talking about the great things that are going on here and start attracting the best candidates so that we can get a diverse pool in front of you. And when I say diverse backgrounds, diverse skill sets, diverse strengths, things of that nature, so that you all can really go through that process of finding that person that's going to be able to work best with you.
I appreciate that, Doctor. Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask us, or because we have some to ask you? It's your preference.
No, that's okay. I would rather open it up to questions to you all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you with two of them, and then we're just gonna move back and forth at you, okay? One of my questions is, can you get this job done in 8 weeks? And I'll tell you what my thinking is, right? We're coming to the end of the school year, pretty close, time flies with everything, right? We have a superintendent that is retiring. I understand that someone could be hired and be obligated in whatever their job is, but usually, if they have to roll to the end, they can break away a day or two. The reason I'm saying this is here at Travis Unified School District, right now, in real time, we have a lot going on. We have a measure that is so important. We have a secret report coming, talking about, not this year, but the following year, but the planning has to start, whether sixth grade's gonna move or not. We're really, the way we're ahead of the game is, we completed our first strategic plan, and it's good. And so that, I believe, even though the district is putting it in play, it officially 1 July, right? Is that when it starts? So, that's a lot of vision and direction from the board, which came from the community to the board. So my whole, without rambling on, my whole point to you, sir, is to have a break in service and have somebody come in cold is gonna slow the wheels down. I think it's like any other job, you come in new, you need somebody and you need the time to be brought up to speed on where we're at with these issues, so you can make your plan to continue. Does that make?
It makes total sense, and I mean, basically what you're describing is everyday K-12 education in these times, and I get it. What is going to expedite the search is if we follow our timelines to a T. So there's going to be tasks that this board needs to complete, whether it's responding to an email, okaying a description, a posting, things of that nature, getting back to us with confirmations on whether you can meet or not meet. Those types of things are going to be critical. Same on our part. So I do hear your desire to make this as quickly as possible. And so we will work with you and we will try to meet that. But there are certain timelines that we don't necessarily have control over. For example, the schedule of your regular board meetings, right? So making sure that we're able to, if we're doing action at a board meeting or something needs to happen, that we've done it, prior to a week before the board meeting, like making sure that we follow those timelines. If we have meetings with communities set up, making sure that that's airtight in terms of our scheduling and that takes place and it's been communicated. What will set us back is if we're supposed to have a meeting with a particular group, or we're supposed to do a Zoom or a Google Meets or something like that, and then word didn't get out, and then we have to reschedule it. And then when we go to reschedule it, it turns out that there's 4 different things happening, and so then we got to get in line and be actually the 5th thing that's happening. So really, following those timelines, making those commitments. I know you walked out of the room, but we really need that point of contact, that sort of, that go-to person, so that they volunteered while you walked out. No, but that'll be you. But then also, although we'll be sending our communication to the entire board, also the board president or whatnot, will also be the one who, if a decision needs to be made right then, obviously in the purview of everyone else, that's why you have a president and a vice president, that we do that, and we make sure that we're keeping up on our timelines.
Right, I think, and I'm not just saying this, I think when you get moving, I know you don't have a crystal ball and things could
Yeah.
happen. I think from the community to Christia to the scheduling, for the support you need to do what we hired your firm to, I think you're going to find a second to none. I think everything will be done very professional and in a very timely manner. If it comes to something where you need something from me and I'm 8 hours or 10 hours later, it's because I've got to do and I've got to okay it with my colleagues.
Yep.
But you won't have 2-3 days with no responses.
Right.
I mean, we're here to support you. And let me turn it over to, this is our vice president.
Yeah.
You've met. Let me turn it over to Board Member Wade.
Okay, sounds good, Matt. I've got a couple of things. First and foremost, Dr. Clark, I'll let you know that it's rather unique. but all 5 members of our board are veterans with military service, one of which is a current reservist. So I think you'll find us to be pretty responsive, prompt, and we'll get back to you pretty directly.
Can I just ask, is there
Yes, sir.
a fifth board member? Because I haven't seen it on the,
We just added them last
oh,
month.
okay, all right.
Yeah, and they represent our base constituency, so,
All right,
yes,
go
it's
ahead.
brand new.
All right.
Mindy, you'll meet Mindy, she's
Yeah.
great. So, Dr. Clark, based on your presentation, I'll let you know, it was an unknown variable for me, so I'm curious to get your feedback now that we have an opportunity to engage directly on the matter. Do you perceive, because you are unique in the fact that both of your partners on this process are sitting superintendents.
Yeah.
So I could see that as a pro in some light and a con in others. And unbiased, because we've already selected you, we've already made the motion and everything else. But do you foresee any conflicts of interest, not only within your hiring pool of your peers, but also based on the time commitments that it is to be a sitting superintendent?
Right. So first of all, within my contract, I have written in my contract that I can consult outside of my daily duties. Same with Reyes, who you'll meet very soon. So we both have that. We both have that within our contracts, and our boards are aware of the work that we are doing. So that is one thing. In terms of conflicts of interest, there are none. Everyone that we bring forward, the full resume will be, you'll have available to see the full resume, to see if we connect. If it turns out that an applicant that we do know or that we have had contact with or worked with or whatnot, we will openly share that with the board as we go through candidates and whatnot in terms of those things. We do have to ask folks tough questions when we're doing our reference checking and things to that nature. But again, this is something that we've all been through, and we're very comfortable having those conversations.
Great, I appreciate it, thank you. Just want to let you know that we're aware, and we're open to that feedback too if it becomes a challenge. I've got kind of 2 comments. The first comment would be just to let you kind of know a little bit of who we are and where we're going. In addition to serving our military community, we serve diverse community in our adjacent towns. So I'm not familiar with your district, but we don't have necessarily one city that we serve. We serve literally 3 cities in the form of Fairfield, Vacaville, and Travis Air Force Base. So I will say that community is changing. And as a result, I would expect that our superintendent is going to have to be rather agile and hopefully not stuck in the status quo. And this is by no means a reflection of Superintendent Conklin at all, where we're looking forward at what we need and what we want. So as we go through the process, hopefully we have that in the back of our mind of kind of who we serve and how our community is changing. And as a result, I think the district's going to have to change as well to ensure we, as you well said, provide the best public education that we absolutely can with the resources we've been provided. So a little bit of history and background on kind of who we are and where we're going. And then I do have a question, and this is a request for feedback. And I don't think this is part of the contract per se, nor is it part of the process that you articulated. But on the backside, I'd be really curious to get your personal feedback on if we're postured right to recruit the right talent, not only on the superintendent pay scale, based on the fact that we're a relatively small district. We do have a lot of competing priorities and demands, but I'll be curious to see if you think we're postured well to recruit the best talent going forward. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, and I'd be curious to see, based on the talent pool that you solicit, if there's a lot of interest in our great district, or if there's variables in there that we need to, as a board, be aware of so we can maybe mitigate or address them going forward too, so.
Absolutely, and I will say, I think one of the advantages of having a sitting superintendent, actually having 2 sitting superintendents, is that we are abreast of all of the current challenges and opportunities in these positions. And again, Travis has many bright spots here that you all have. Number one is the closeness to the military, and just knowing that you're able to provide that service, and knowing that you're working with families who are military families, and so there's an extra sort of there's an extra sort of pride and commitment that comes with that. But also, you are not insulated from the change that's taken place every day in our world, namely housing prices and where people can afford to live, or things to that nature. And so, I grew up driving through 80 in this area, and just to see how it's changed over the years, just visually, that's one change. But I know that culturally and the way of life here has also changed, and the school district needs to be able to embrace that change, and change is very difficult for educational organizations. It's very difficult to go through that change, but you have to change to be able to meet the changing needs of your students who are coming to your classrooms each and every day.
Absolutely, sir. Hopefully the superintendent we select reflects that same position.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Clark, the superintendent that we hire wouldn't necessarily be required? The superintendent that we hire wouldn't necessarily be required to have experience with a military district, because there's so many variations of, heavily impacted. We're considered a low-lot district where we're down to 34% now, I believe, which means, he mentioned that we are a tri-city district where, we got the military, we got Fairfield, we have Vacaville. Some of our most interesting challenges, arrive from the things that we have to deal with, with the base. And I don't mean that in a negative, but just saying that providing that additional support that military families need. And people are constantly transitioning into this community for the first time. So we're not like, we're considered to be a transit district where people are coming in, but as my colleague Wade said, that the community, at the same time, the community is changing. So it is transitioning where people are moving in from other communities, and this community is still being established as we go. So it's going to be a unique personality, who we hire, for this job. And so the military families is our one concern. So I want to hear about your interviewing process. So once you get a pool of candidates lined up, how do you go about your interviews? Is it strictly just they get interviewed by the school board, or is there do you form committees within the district to interview, or how does that process work? Because, as I mentioned about the military families, I'm concerned about the process of how the superintendent is going to be eventually hired.
Right. So there's a wide varieties of ways that you can conduct interviews, and those are things that we're going to work with you all on. So I'll just list a few, right? You can do a video interview with certain folks, so you can have them present actually to the board a prompt, and then they're on video seeing that. And so that's one way. You can do the face-to-face interviews. You can do a writing prompt. You can do kind of a scenario type things. Mainly, it is the board doing the interviews, but you can set up subgroups, whether community members, labor partners, parents, things to that nature, where they can also have time to participate in the interview process. But it's really about what's going to work best for you all, and how you're going to be able to get to those values of what is what is essential in a leader. I would just say, just in hearing you describe this, it's going to be very important to really tease out, what does Travis Unified stand for? What is it that you all no matter, you got families who are coming from all over the world and families who are from this area who are going to be coming to these schools. What experience can they expect to have when they step through the doors here in this organization? And I think that's something that you all are gonna have to articulate to us, and we'll be able to work with you on being able to tease that out so that we can put that out there. So just hearing what you said earlier about wanting to, not necessarily it's a requirement, but like you've had a superintendent for 10 years, like that is unique, but that means that someone is really vested in the community. They, I'm not sure if they're part of the community or they live close by, and those are all things that you can include in your contract where, is it requiring that they live within the district? Is it requiring that they live in a certain radius? Is it required, other things? What service groups they belong to, and what service groups that the board will support them attending? So it's really those types of things that shape really what the district stands for, and the superintendent is the one who's going to implement, and make sure that all those things are happening in this ever-changing environment.
Yeah, well, I know we're not going to reach a consensus tonight. Again, we want to congratulate you and welcome you, to our team. But just, I want to leave you with the idea that this board member would like to see you form a series of committees, who interview, consisting of parents and, different leaders, that can be determined. But I don't want the decision to fall solely on the board without having been vetted by the community first. I've been part of that process, and I think that's a good process to get the whole community involved and to make them, not to make them, but let them know that they're part of the decision, that the board ultimately has to make as well. So,
well, that's one thing I want you to just consider and just be aware of is that sometimes when you have superintendent vacancies and you're looking at applicants, sometimes you have sitting superintendents who are applying for those positions, and it's not always great if your board knows that you're out there applying. So oftentimes, these processes are extremely confidential, and then maybe the finalists come to some sort of community group or things, but...
I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what happened before. After we got it narrowed down to like the top 3, then those people were able to... Yeah, so you're right, though.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't want to put anybody in a compromising position that...
Right. And everyone signs, confidentiality agreements and stuff, but it still leaks out or something that someone's spending time here and asking around and things like that, and word gets out, and sometimes that may limit some candidates that may have been a good fit. Yeah?
That's definitely something to consider. Thank you.
Yeah.
Doctor, real quick, and we don't need to get into this right now. I just want to reemphasize the fact that we'll be there for you.
Good.
Keep your machine running.
Good.
But here's something, and don't go in, I know we'll get it. So anybody looking for a job, when you pull up Indeed and you look, okay, we're washing dishes. First thing you usually look at is how much are we going to get paid, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's dishwashing, soup, whatever. Money's, you're doing it because you need to get paid, right? So with that said, we have a senior superintendent leaving with a contract that is elevated up over year after year after year after year. So if you have 3 or 4, just say the top 5, right? When are we going to talk about the contract? When are we going to, at what part are we going to talk about the stipulations? At what point are we going to talk about the pay, the benefits, everything? Because we could be wasting a lot of time. Shouldn't that at some point be in place? What I've seen this on a city council where we hired a city manager,
Yeah,
and then it took 3 weeks to negotiate his contract, and we said, there's no way. We're just a little city here, and we had to start all over again. Just a little peek into how that's gonna work?
yeah, so generally, as we're working on the advertisement, we want to post a range. So you don't necessarily put, I mean, everyone's going to go to Transparent California and see what the current superintendent's making. They do know, they could just do a little bit of homework. She's been here for a while. She's, earned her raises over the years and stuff like that. So that's usually not the starting point, but it's within the range. And so you develop a range, and if you're looking for a job, you think, you go, I could make it in that range, maybe in the lower end or the higher end or whatnot. And then as the consultants, as we're talking to folks, that is one of our questions. Like, you've seen the range, what about this? And some of them might say, yeah, well, I really, maybe the board can just do a little bit more with X, Y, Z. And then we may say, well, you know what, the board is really, they're really firm on this, or if it's a candidate who you all, just really meets everything that you've described, and we really want that person to come in, that's part of the conversation with you all. Like, hey, we got some candidates, one of them, though, just a heads up, they're looking at a little bump in salary or want these things in the contract. But these are conversations that we have kind of behind the scenes, and we let you know, we don't want to bring someone in front of you who we've invested a lot of time and effort in to get them here, and then they're here, and at the end, we both have to walk away because it's not going to work. So we want to try best as possible to work all that out ahead of time, so that as we come in, then we're able to, really, close the deal on that contract. We, of course, would look at the existing contract that the superintendent has, see what service organizations, vacation, calendar year, those are the types of things that, that we can figure out, right? And it'll just make that process go that much quicker, rather than starting from scratch from that process and trying to recreate all of those things. There may be certain things in the contract right now currently that are just very specific to what the current superintendent, really requested, and maybe someone else may not want those same things.
Exactly, and the board, I'm sure, will have a few conditions. We all, but that's something when we're all,
Yeah.
we're missing two members, and I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse, but I just want to get a little perspective with that. What I don't want to see, which I saw 20 years ago, is it took another 2 months because the person we hired we couldn't agree. So everybody will know coming in. And my last thing is when you reach out there, I'd like to give you just my perspective, right? If I was in your shoes, and I don't know anything, I wouldn't waste a lot of time and money and people on the East Coast and all that kind of
Right.
stuff, to continue with that, I would think that whether they're a prior superintendent, an assistant superintendent, whether they're an upcoming good background, education, good leadership, an up-and-coming star, everyone will get the same, no matter where they are, same attention, and we'll all know about that, the board as a whole, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Absolutely.
one other thing, Doctor. So I know from experience, and I know you're going to do it, you're going to reach out to the community and stuff. So what I will do is, if the board's okay, I will give Christian a punch list to help you, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, of members of the community that have huge followings of all our parents and everything. And it's up to you if you want to utilize what they already have set up. As you know, parents there's a lot of, issues go back and forth, and we have, I think you'll find, you'll get a lot of opinions on a lot of different things. You're not going to find a community of parents that don't return your calls or don't answer. So, anyway, if that helps you, if it doesn't, I'd like to offer that to you.
Okay, and again, the point of contact is going to be critical. in
Absolutely.
these
I'll
ways.
I'll send her a list of people that have said, hey, it's okay if they contact me, and if they can be to help, they can. If it's not within your scope, then just tell them no, and it'll be fine.
Yeah,
Again, I'm excited because we have so much going on, and again, I don't mean to be a broken record. We'll be there for you. Let's find the person that can do this in a timely manner, so we don't have a break in service. That's just my one thing.
yep, well, the important part is that it's we're looking to add to the governance team, and really the board and the superintendent work together as a team, and that's going to be critical. And just like with a team, you have your goals, you have the rules of operation. This is how we operate. These are the things we value. This is how we do business. And I think the more that we can be explicit with that is going to make is going to make this process that much more successful. I think when you're kind of not sure, or there's a lot of competing interests, and where one person likes red and the other person likes a totally different color, then that's a challenge. And that wasn't a political thing.
Right,
but,
Doctor, let me
Sounded pretty
say,
good,
I think
Doctor.
I could speak for the board here and the members that aren't here. We look forward to working with you.
Yeah.
If no one from the board has anything else, Ivor, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, with that in mind, Dr. Clark, we have, within the last year, done a lot of work to clarify the board's intent. So we'll make sure those products are available. They are recent, and I would love to make sure that's part of the solicitation package, as they understand who we are.
Yeah.
And specifically, beyond your state mandated products, I would say we recently, the ink is still wet on our strategic plan to include the board goals in there, our priorities, and a myriad of other strategic vision from the board. So hopefully, and we're open to that feedback, that we're consistent, we're direct, we're transparent, and we look forward to not only working with you, but all the potential candidates, but we're also open to your feedback too if you see inconsistencies.
Great. Well, I'm super excited about beating the pavement and trying to get some candidates in front of you all who will serve the students and the parents and the staff of this great community.
Doctor, with that said, I'm going to wish everybody a good night, travel home safely, and go to work, sir.